Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now today I have a really tough question for you. Have you ever looked in the mirror and hated what you saw? And what do I mean by that? Have you questioned your reality and your relationship and wondered, am I going crazy? Am I going nuts? You feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells. You never feel good enough for him or her. And you doubt every single move, every single word you say. It'll leave you depressed and exhausted and feeling totally alone. You're being trapped in a cycle of emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and really undue control. Now, these are all signs that you're experiencing narcissistic abuse. And by that, I mean a pattern of manipulation which is aimed at undermining your self worth and sense of control. So, to say a little bit about what narcissists do, they have an self inflated sense of ego and self importance, and they lack empathy for anyone else. They view others as objects to serve their fragile ego rather than being fully fledged human beings. Now, if you're living with a narcissist, it can leave you mentally and emotionally exhausted as you try to avoid provoking their temper or sparking another tirade full of criticism of how bad you are. Does that sound familiar? Because over time, this type of abuse chips away at your identity, your self esteem, and your boundaries. But let me tell you, none of this is your fault. No one deserves to be treated this way or made to feel worthless in a relationship that should be nurturing, care filled, and full of love. And it's a very common problem. So today, I'm going to help you. I'm going to reveal the 10 most shocking signs of narcissistic abuse to look out for. And you'll get a step by step method that I use with my clients to help them regain their confidence and self esteem and stand up to that manipulation once and for all. Now, you'll have to watch very carefully until the end to get the secrets for breaking this cycle for good. And if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe for more tips. Now, trust me, this protocol can change your life. It can help you take that mask off your emotional abuse and get your power back. So, you ready? Okay, let's jump in because this is only the beginning of reclaiming who you truly are. Now, in many situations with narcissists, they start the relationship by what they call love bombing. It's one of the earliest signs. It's a tactic that's meant to just completely overwhelm your senses with excessive flattery, attention, and gifts to really quickly intensify the relationship and gain that control over you straight away. In the early stages, especially, they may love bomb you by constantly declaring their deep feelings and saying, I've never felt this way before, you're perfect for me. Let's just spend every minute together all the time. And that really can cause you a big problem. They may smother you with compliments and dates and multiple gifts a week. And it'll cause you a bigger problem because it's flattering for someone to feel that way, or for someone to feel that way about you, rather. But in disguise, it's often a way to coerce intimacy and isolate you from friends and family and any other interests you have outside the relationship before you've gotten to know them. So, what can you do about it? Well, the action I recommend is when it happens, maintain clear boundaries, okay? It may sound like common sense, but it's more difficult to do in practice than than anyone can tell you because it's an attractive trait to feel that someone cares that much about you. But warning: don't rush into any deep commitments. Don't allow the relationship to escalate too quickly. You need to take a step back and ask yourself, really, does this feel genuine or is it just overwhelming me? And your gut will probably tell you the answer. I have a test which is okay, just create some space, take a break for yourself, and see how they respond when you're not constantly on tap. Okay, because somebody who genuinely respects you and your space and you as a person will be patient and understanding, whereas a narcissist may, well, probably will react with frustration or push even harder for control. Now, love bombing is only the beginning because once they feel you're hooked, that manipulation and the control can gradually intensify. And that intensifies into what is a very, very damaging aspect of being with a narcissist and a huge red flag. That's gaslighting. Now, that goes beyond just being part of a troubled relationship. Very often it's at the core because it's a manipulative cycle and it's aimed at controlling and undermining your sense of self. It can be very subtle. It can make you question your reality, your memory, and quite often your sanity. Now, you want to know why? Well, see if this resonates, because a specific example may be trying to explain your feelings after your spouse or partner has made a hurtful remark. So instead of apologizing to you or acknowledging why you're upset, they'll say, "Oh, why are you always so sensitive? It wasn't even that bad." Or it may be about a timing of something. Say, you remember they asked you to meet at 7 o'clock, and they turn up at 8, and they'll say, "Oh, no, you're imagining things. I never said that." Right? Immediately, this is a big red flag of gaslighting. It's a tactic that twists the narrative so convincingly that you start to doubt your own perception, and soon you start to rely on their version of the truth. Remember, it's not about just them winning an argument. It's about getting complete control over your reality and your perception of everyday things. Now, in my experience, it's a very common problem, and not just with narcissists. So on this red flag, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about how to counter it. Okay, and the first action step I recommend to counter that is to keep a record. It's simple, because when you start doubting your memory, it's really important that you write things down. Keep a journal of key conversations, dates, and promises. Or make sure you send a text to confirm, because this way, when they try and manipulate you later on, you've got a written record that grounds you and makes your reality real. Because they're bound to say at some point, "You're imagining things. I never promised to pick up the kids." You can be very calm and you can just refer back to your notes and say, "Actually, on Tuesday at 1:30, we agreed you would do that. Here's what was said." Now, it's annoying, but it will help you maintain confidence in your memory and your sanity. The second way to deal with gaslighting is to just trust your gut feelings, because gaslighting works by making you doubt your instincts. You'll feel uncomfortable. It's a feeling that something isn't right, and trust that feeling. And many people who are gaslit just try and push past that. You need to look and see whether the gaslighter uses words that doesn't match their actions. Or if you constantly need to defend your reality, that's a red flag. Thirdly, just talk to someone outside, a friend or a counselor or coach. Share those experiences with people you trust and check whether your perceptions are accurate. Not all third parties are reliable sources of advice, but they can provide some validation, because you're probably going to need it, because you're going to feel very uncertain or confused. And the fourth way of dealing with a gaslighter is that when it happens, set boundaries. You can say things like, "Well, I don't appreciate it when you dismiss my feelings. Can we come back to this and discuss when we can both be more respectful to each other?" If you state your boundaries clearly and calmly, it reduces the emotional toll of their manipulation. Okay, so watch out for gaslighting. It's a serious problem because it does distort your reality and your confidence. And it kind of leads into the next red flag in narcissistic abuse, because that is where you feel like you're never good enough. You're always trying to get their approval, and you're never going to get it. And that red flag number 3 is constant criticism and devaluation. Over time, a narcissist's endless criticism, it chips away at self-esteem, and it can make you feel totally inadequate. For example, you might spend hours preparing a special dinner, and they haven't contributed, but they come in, they eat, and they say, "Oh God, this is the worst meal I've ever had. Why did you even bother? Didn't you have a recipe? Can you follow it? The vegetables are overcooked. It's really salty. I don't like it." So no appreciation for what you've tried to do, even if that is the case. And that will continue. So you start anticipating criticism even before you finish doing something. You'll find yourself asking, "Oh, what's the point?" And every effort just seems wasted and futile. Constant criticism ensures that no matter what you do, it's never good enough. Now, to counter that, you've got to challenge that negative self-talk. Remind yourself that what they're saying is just a reflection of how they're feeling about themselves. It's not about you. But it's tough. But if you stand your ground and you do that firmly and calmly without raising the temperature with emotions, try repeating their comment and just say, "I want to be clear what you're saying here. Can you just clarify it? Can you just repeat what you said? And I'd really like to know why you are saying what you're saying." Okay, build boundaries. Establish that you won't tolerate disrespect that poisons your confidence. Try saying, "Oh, well, that's all well and good in your mind, but it hurts and it solves nothing." It will halt the personal attack and build a shield. You may need to surround yourself with more positive influences, be that friends, family, or even try self-affirmations. They actually do work. And a video I will be doing about self-affirmation for confidence in a relationship is something I will be doing later in this channel. So subscribe now, okay? Remember, criticism often leads to another tactic, and that is isolation. The narcissist really will try and isolate you from anyone else. The world circulates around them. Okay, if you're not there on tap, then you're at fault. You don't love them. You don't care about them. It's awful. It's an awful situation to be because, with this red flag, you'll be isolated from friends and family and anyone significant, even your work. Okay, they'll slowly pull you away from your support network, and that's to make sure they have complete control over everything you do in your life. Okay, they might try things or say things like, "Oh, your friends are awful. They're really bad influence on you. Why do you even spend time with them? They don't care about you like I do." Or the guilt trip. Why don't you want to spend time with me? Well, you'll probably be made to feel that you are the unreasonable one and you're neglecting them. They love you so much, but you're neglecting them. And that is their goal. You need to resist that isolation by staying connected with those who care about you most and will give rather than take. If a narcissist does this, try and ask them exactly, what time can I take for myself that will not hurt you? Okay, that won't make you feel that I don't care about you. Okay, what do you have in mind? It flips the conversation, it flips the dial so that the onus is on them to actually express something more reasonable to you. Okay. And then if all else fails, make sure that you keep an outside connection with short texting, messages to friends and family. Maintain that support mechanism outside the relationship, because you can lose reality really easy. Isolation is really designed to make you feel alone, but by the end of this situation, you will feel that unless you are there on tap, serving their every need, then you will not feel that you have self-worth. And so that kind of leads on to the next aspect of there's a lot. I know if you have any questions, please put in the comments below and I'll be happy to help you, or just reach out. So moving on from that type of isolation is red flag number 5, which is emotional manipulation and guilt tripping. This is something they are really, really good at doing. Okay, it just kind of leads on from isolation, but they will use your very most needed emotions and they will use it against you. They'll try guilt tripping. They'll manipulate you into doing exactly what they want. They know how to push your buttons, to push guilt or defensiveness, and they just want to bend you to their will. Let me give you an example. If you just outright refuse to do something, they might say, "Oh, after everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me. This is how you repay me." Or they'll try, you want to go a particular place and say, "We're always doing what you want to do." In this situation, you need to set clear boundaries, okay? Decide what behavior is acceptable to you and what isn't. It's not always easy because they're going to say you're being unreasonable. And you just have, in this instance, just say no. Don't explain or defend yourself or elaborate it. Don't feel tempted to justify yourself and respond with all the things you do for them, because really that's tantamount to playing their really ugly game on their ugly level. I do have a standard protocol of responses that I advise my clients to use to stand their ground and not fall prey to guilt tactics. People with narcissists are very prone to being manipulated with this tactic. The recent example, there's a client of mine, I'll call her Amy. She was always being constantly guilt tripped by her husband. I'll call him Dave. He'd constantly be really demeaning and sarcastic, and then he would just dismiss the impact that it had on her. He'd say, "Oh, you're overreacting. It was just a stupid joke. Why are you taking it so seriously?" And Amy she used to try and deal with it by being sarcastic back, or she got angry, and that just made matters worse. So I've shown her how to take control of the narrative and gave her a standard reply, plenty of them, but it would be something like, "Well, I don't think I'm overreacting, because when you said that, I felt hurt and I felt embarrassed. And, I'd really, really appreciate it if you could avoid jokes making jokes at each other's expense, because the to and fro, it gets us nowhere. And if you feel this is something that I'm taking the wrong way, or I should ignore it, then I'm ready to hear you out and work it out. So push back by understanding instead of aggression. Try and establish firm boundaries, and that way keep your own self-respect. Don't try and fight it on their level. Whew, it's a lot, isn't it? Because emotional manipulation often leaves you drained. But let's go to the next aspect of the narcissistic relationship, is in that the narcissist lacks complete empathy. They struggle to understand or care about your feelings. They just don't give a damn. This lack of empathy, that's what allows them to continue hurting you and not feeling remorseful or guilty about it, because it's all about them. You probably have been through this. If you're with a narcissist, you're upset about something, and your partner says, "Look, I don't have time for this drama right now. I've got my own problems. Why are you always making things difficult when I'm so good to you?" Here, you need to show them that their inability to show empathy is their issue. It's not yours. Acknowledging that they won't meet your emotional needs is the first step towards fulfilling those needs elsewhere from friends or family, or again, professional help. It's not easy, because you've got to stay strong and you've got to work really hard on your self-esteem, whatever that looks like. So the next time your partner dismisses your feelings, instead of trying to argue or push back, or burst into tears and seek comfort from them, just acknowledge that their lack of empathy is causing the problem, and instead, in a way, distance yourself and share your feelings with someone else who is emotionally supportive. A further step you can take to build self-esteem is to emotionally check out from constantly needing, from their seeking empathy or approval. Okay, a helpful tool in doing this is, and it actually does work, is to just journal your feelings. You're not going to get any answers from the narcissist. Write it down or type it out or speak it into the phone and record it, and say the things that you really want to say to them. But shift it from expecting empathy from the narcissist, right? Because that will help you rebuild your emotional health. And it does work. It's a bit of a practice. I can show you how to do that. If you need any help, let me know. When you're with someone who doesn't seem to care for you, it's completely and utterly one-sided. You really need to recognize that it's completely imbalanced. It's not what you need from a relationship, and you need to take active steps to change your responses to protect yourself. Because believe me, a narcissist will have no empathy, but they expect your admiration and really love in return. Which leads me on to red flag 7. This is what I call narcissistic supply. It's a constant need for attention. Narcissists love being the center of attention, and if they feel neglected or overlooked, they're going to respond. They're going to feel hostile, they're going to sulk, and they'll probably be passive aggressive as well. Say if you're in a social situation at a party, you're just having a casual conversation with a friend, you'll find a narcissist who you may not have spoken to for 5 minutes comes over to you and says, "Why are you ignoring me? Am I invisible? Doesn't it matter?" They'll probably even do it publicly in front of people. Again, it's to push it back onto you. The focus has to come back to them. And they don't like the fact that you're enjoying time with someone else. It's essential not to give in to that constant need for validation. And I come back to, again, boundary setting. It's the core of what I teach people. All right. Instead of catering to every emotional demand, of which there will be many, you need to create space for yourself within the relationship. Okay, whether it's friends, whether it's pursuing your hobby, or just basically doing anything that doesn't involve the narcissist. You need to put your shields up, Star Trek style. Put the shields up. Now, if they complain about being ignored when you do this, you have to simply say, "Look, I'm having a really good conversation. I'm learning things, but we can talk later." Right? Don't shut them out totally, because that will just feed into their narrative. But it does acknowledge their statement without fueling that overwhelming need for me, 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 me. And don't feel guilty, okay, for doing this for yourself. You need to build that support system. Be it family, co-workers, they need to recognize and appreciate you. right? You need meaningful connections beyond the narcissistic partner because their constant need for admiration, you'll probably see it, they'll fly into a temper about really minimal things because the reality is, the trigger is, they don't feel the center of attention. All right, you don't return their text quickly enough. It's a small thing, they'll gaslight it. Remember what I said about gaslighting earlier on? It's always there with the narcissist, and you have a right to have a life outside the relationship. And the temper, the red flag 8, the explosive anger or silent treatment. Oh yeah, their reaction to being threatened or ignored or feeling insignificant, it can be explosive anger to silent treatment, and both are designed to keep you in line, keep you in check, and keep you down. So say one day you just have the nerve to question a decision like, what film to watch or where to go for dinner. And they'll explode. Oh, you're so ungrateful. You never think about what I want. Why do you never always do this? So if you're with someone who always uses the phrases, oh, you never, or you always do this, or you always say this, red flag, okay? Because they can shut down very unpredictably. And you're going to be walking on eggshells, and it is going to, again, eat away at that self-esteem, which is what you need. Don't engage with it. If they're angry or giving you silent treatment, just respond calmly. Tell them that you're willing to talk, where you can have a respectful conversation. If you're texting type of people, send a very neutral text and just say, okay, let's cool down and let's talk about it. But right now, if we're face to face, it's not going to work very well. Okay. Push it back on them because they're trying to pull you into that emotional storm that lives in their minds and their emotions. And, if sadly, if that anger escalates or the silent treatment continues, you need to remove yourself from that situation, either temporarily or permanently. It's very difficult to come back from when anger starts coming into the relationship dynamic. Okay. Because they're so unpredictable, you're probably going to start to feel unsafe. And then you'll find that will spill over into even your successes. They won't be safe from the manipulation either, which is red flag 9, which is undermining your achievements. Narcissists hate anyone else succeeding, and especially not you. If they see you thriving without them, they'll often downplay or sabotage those achievements to keep control over you, bring down your self-worth, and reel you back in. A specific example, you may be absolutely excited that you've nailed a major project at work, or you've got a promotion. A narcissist will probably say something like, well, you only got that promotion because the boss likes you. And did you really do all that? You didn't really earn it. That's to erode confidence and make you doubt your own success. You can't succeed without them. You can't succeed without me. Don't let that negativity diminish your accomplishments. Take action because you own your success. For example, in that example, you could say, well, I'm really sorry you feel that way, but I know I worked really hard to achieve all I have. And I'd like to know from you, why do you feel that I didn't deserve it? Okay, put the onus back on them to justify their extreme behavior statement. Okay, and if need be, I come back to it again, but journaling, keeping a record of your successes. Set yourself a goal, be they big or small, that you have achieved without the narcissist, because writing it down will remind you of how far you've come, and it'll counteract all those efforts to belittle you. Any success you have is valid regardless of their opinion, and you need to own it and you need to be proud of it. Now, let's come to number 10, which is probably the most infuriating aspect of narcissistic abuse, and that's their complete refusal to ever accept responsibility for their behavior. Yes, red flag 10, and it's a big flag. Narcissists never accept responsibility. As regardless of the situation, they'll twist that narrative to make it seem like everything is your fault somehow. And after a while, you start to doubt your own actions. We've touched on this earlier, but it's really about them evading responsibility to bring you down. A simple example, say if they promised to pick the kids up from school and they completely forgot, they'll probably respond and say, well, if you hadn't distracted me with your problems earlier, or if you hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have forgotten. If you reminded me, I wouldn't have forgotten. You're made to feel guilty for something that wasn't ever your fault to begin with. But they will twist that reality once again to throw it back in your face. And it is solely and purely a manipulation tactic that you need to recognize for what it is. Don't take blame for things that aren't your responsibility. Now, how are you going to do that? Again, it's back to the text you make at the same time you have the after you have the conversation, the journal. You need to act like a lawyer. Trust me, I'm a lawyer. Record the conversation, the exact date and time and what was said. Act like a lawyer who's looking for evidence to refer to in a trial. Again, it's really tiresome, but it's necessary. All right, if you make an arrangement, send a text to confirm it. Be precise. It will push them back. It will keep them on the back foot when they inevitably try and gaslight it and try to distort your recollection of what was said. And I tell my clients, if you do that over a period of time, you will start to notice a pattern in their behavior, the triggers that set them off on this path. And if you record that over a period of months or however long it needs to be, you'll recognize that that behavior is not your fault. It reflects their character, not yours. And it can distance yourself emotionally, and you'll stop putting that guilt on your shoulders. They want you to feel that way. All right, it makes it easier to set boundaries and protect your mental well-being. So we've covered quite a bit of ground today in one video. If these red flags seem familiar, know that they are very common. You don't need to face them alone. Narcissistic abuse is very difficult to deal with, but it is possible to break free and rebuild your life. Sometimes a narcissist will make those efforts to change. You probably need guidance to see how extreme that behavior is and really whether a relationship can be salvaged. Because I've got a lot of clients who are victims of narcissists, and it's very difficult to rebuild the relationship there. But really what's important is you make the choice to improve yourself for the next relationship you choose to have. So what can you do right now? Okay. Like I said, it's not dealing with a narcissistic partner is not a skill that most people have naturally. You're not born with it. It has to be learned and practiced, often with professional help. But there are action steps which we've spoken about today, which you can start taking. Try each one of them as and when it occurs. Go back, again, start small. Set those boundaries. Forgive yourself for what the narcissist will keep telling you are at fault for. Okay? You're not at fault. Keep that in mind. Okay? Today you would have learned that recognizing red flags is a first step towards reclaiming your power. It's a difficult experience. It's a horrible experience, but you are stronger than you think. And everybody deserves to have a healthy and respectful relationship. Now, don't hesitate to share your experiences in the comments. Have you seen any of these signs in your partner? And if you've got strategies that you know, then I'd love to hear them. How do you deal with gaslighting or silent treatment? And I will tell you that in the next part of my Rebuilding Relationships series, I'm going to tackle the deeper issues behind those emotional triggers and the behaviors that lead to unhealthy dynamics like this. If you're catching this video after it's aired, you'll find the entire Rebuilding Relationships playlist linked in the description below. If you're looking for a deeper dive, a more comprehensive approach to deal with challenges like this and build stronger, healthy connections with your partner, it is possible. And I'd love you to check out the free sneak peek of the Relationships Rebuilt program, which is also linked in the description and the comments below. So we've covered a lot. I would love to hear from you. You do have the power to transform yourself, and that in turn transforms your relationship. And if you're committed to that process, I'm here to support you all and every step of the way. Now, if this video has resonated with you, or if it would help anyone you know, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone who you feel might need it. Now, until next time, remember that you have the right to have a happy, healthy relationship. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.